Alright guys, more sanctions applied on the Russian oil sector by Ukrainian drones this night. Lukoil factory or oil refinery facility was hit. The Russian air defense tried to shut down some of the drones, sometimes they even were successful, but Ukraine launched many of the drones. It happened in Volgograd, the ex-name of the city is Stalingrad, just for you to understand. And here iPhone takes pretty much good pictures even during the night time, so facility was definitely hit. As usual, Russians report about the drone interception and just some of the debris hit the facility, precisely. But even the Russian military bloggers are joking about it. As it is reported, Ukraine launched more of the drones, so probably we're gonna wait for more kabooms happening this night. And more from Stalingrad. As you can see, the battle for liberation for Stalingrad is still ongoing in Russia. But what Russia is doing? Well, they bomb themselves. And this video was recorded in the Lipetsk Oblast. Russia fires missile to hit its own territory. Absolutely the same way they've done in Sudzha. This time it was the Russian Ha-22 missile. Ukraine doesn't have that missile, so obviously it's the Russian one. And actually guys, Russia regularly bombs its own territory. Not a long time ago, Russia dropped their smart bombs and they hit some of the facilities and one of the villages of Russia in the Bryansk Oblast. Yeah, sorry, not the Bryansk Oblast, but the Belgorod region before it was in Bryansk Oblast. So once in a week at least they have this. Russians used the special smart gliding modules for their Soviet-made bombs, but they failed to operate many of the times. The most frequent failure is that the wings of this gliding module fail to deploy. Abti Aludinov, a commander of the Chechen battalion Ahmad, said that Russians didn't hit the school in Sudzha, but at the same time he says that if Russians hit the school in Sudzha, yes, in one sentence he said like that, it means that there were Ukrainian soldiers in it.
Так что получается, прикрываясь мирными жителями, развернув внизу штаб, просидели вы, везде вы этих мирных жителей держите, прикрываетесь ими, а потом еще рассказываете сказки о том, что русские куда-то кого-то ударили.
Russia bombs Russia, and for those who live in the Kursk region, well, they had the opportunity to go to the Russian-controlled territory or to go to Ukraine or to stay, but staying in the war zone is not the smart move from locals, because Russia will vanish Sudzha with its gliding bombs, accusing at the same time Ukraine. A commander of the Russian volunteer battalion Tiger was zeroed today by Ukraine in the Kursk region. His name was Sergei Yefremov and he was the deputy of the governor of the Primorsky Krai, Russian Federation. He organized Battalion Tiger back in 2022, so they gathered some of the support from the Russian people because they also have volunteers, plus obviously they have the supplies from the Russian army. Battalion Tiger was based on the Russian 155th Brigade, famous for the massacres and war crimes they've done in Ukraine. So how this guy was zeroed? Well, his car was hit by a Ukrainian drone. That is what I know, but Russians say that his car hit the Russian mine. Well, in any case, the outcome is the same. Kind of the fat target for Ukraine, definitely. Alright, about North Koreans who left the Kursk Oblast, definitely it's been confirmed that North Koreans were not used on the front lines for more than 2 weeks. And you know guys, there are lots of the speculation and rumors about North Koreans, but we cannot check out the facts. The known information that they definitely were taken out from the Kursk region to the Russian bases. But why was it done? No one knows so far. Maybe North Korea may even send more of the soldiers to Ukraine, because before, like 1 month ago, there was the information about it, so maybe they're gonna go through the training once again with the new soldiers. It's definitely hard to say, but what we know also that they have absolutely tremendous losses among North Koreans because they were used for the straightforward meat attacks. Again, Putin in his car, why Russia releases those kind of the videos by portions, why there is no car interview, a new Russian auto blogger out there. Well, let's listen to what Putin says about the European politicians. Could be interesting.
Сегодня там практически таких людей нет. Иногда даже с удивлением смотришь на то, что происходит. Ну, не знаю, какие-то люди У них и образования-то нет, и занимаются явно не своим делом, которым никогда в жизни не занимались. Это, ну, с точки зрения интересов граждан европейских стран, это беда какая-то. Не знаю, мелюзга просто политическая.
Putin definitely speaks using the terms from the Russian Gopnik vocabulary. Here's one more portion of the video where he praises Trump and says that European politicians will just obey the master. Let's listen.
Трамп с его характером, с его настойчивостью, он наведет там порядок довольно быстро. И все они, вот увидите, это произойдет быстро, скоро. Все они станут у ноги хозяина и будут нежно помахивать хвостиком. Все это встанет на свои места.
Again, this Gopnik style, and you know, Russian elite, those crazy old men, they are like this, like Putin and his FSB circle. Patrushev, Shoigu, Gerasimov, all of the Russian elite, FSB and ex-KGB elite is like that. At the same time, they hate United States, but they understand that they will never reach that level. But actually, it's just in their minds. The real world is different. The United States is definitely the biggest economy, but it's not decisive elsewhere. But for Kremlin old men, it's like that. They are Soviet dinosaurs and they still live in the Cold War times in their heads. By the way, my friends, if you want to support the job that I do here on YouTube, you may do it via Patreon. I'll put my link in the video description just below. Thank you so much for maintaining my motivation. As the legacy media write, it was the ultimatum from Marco to the president of Panama that the Panama Channel should be fully controlled by the United States. Trump's administration afraid that there are some of the Hong Kong-based companies which want to extend their influence. Guys, a couple of words about the possible Chinese influence of Panama Channel. So here we go with the channel itself. It's the northern side, so the side of the Atlantic Ocean, and here we have some of the ports. And as you can see, there are some of the ports built not far away from the entrance to the channel. Port Colón, which is over here, is controlled by the Panama companies. But the part of the port is called Port Cristobal, belongs to the China company based in Hong Kong, CK Hodgson Holdings. And this port, Manzanillo, is controlled by the American company. And there are many cases that those ports, they work together to provide proper logistics. So actually it's the free market, and Hong Kong company invested in the building of the port, and then China or non-China ships are using the infrastructure of the port. It doesn't mean that China controls the Panama Canal. No, it is purely controlled by Panama. And if we go to the southeast, over here in the Pacific part, there are two of the major ports. One is the port Balboa, and definitely it was built with the help of the Chinese investments, and it is controlled by the same Hong Kong company as the Atlantic port near the Panama Channel. And as you can see, the infrastructure of the port is definitely huge. It's like the city. Tremendous funds were invested into this project to make the trade with the United States of America, first of all, really fast. So the goods from China are coming to this port, then they go to Mexico, to the United States, to Canada. On the other hand, there is another port which belongs to the big company of Singapore. But again, the channel, like the corridor for the ships, has the control just from Panama. Ports are controlled by different organizations, and they could be based in China, they could be based elsewhere, including the United States of America. It's just for you as the reference, because we continue to hear from the current White House administration that China controls canal, and that the United States should return it back using even military forces, so they do not exclude using military in this mission. So Rubio demands the reduction of the Chinese influence over a canal. You know, guys, I do not support the Communist Party of China, but the free market is the free market. So China built their port over there, and they are selling their products to the United States. So United States just do not buy what is made in China to reduce China influence on you. This sounds kind of strange because after all you obtain the goods from China. Everything is made in China nowadays, all of the electronics, like the most of the electronics. So yeah, it's the long story. If you want to make China weak, you need to organize your own production in your own country. But for the modern day capitalism, it is easier to produce everything in China, to take the ships from China to the United States, than to pay pretty much high price for the production, the same production in the United States. So get rid of that feature and you'll make China weak again. But at the same time, you should understand that the prices for the products will rise by several of the times. I mean, for everything. And that's why Donald Trump applied just 10% of the tariffs on China, but 25% on Canada and Mexico. And there was the information that after Rubio's visit, Panama canceled the agreement with China, Common Way, Common Belt, in which China wants to build a robust supply connection line between the West and China. However, it is hard to confirm that information for me personally. Probably in a few hours we'll know more. And guys, I just hope that there will be no military intervention into Panama, because after all it's the sovereign state, and no matter what Trump's intentions are, if he lands the army forces in Panama, it will be the intervention and it will be an aggression towards the sovereign state. And I think that this scenario is still possible because the previous security agreements, they do not work under the current White House administration. They think that they're strong and they can annex territories, like Putin does, for example, in Ukraine. There was the tweet again of Donald Trump on his Truth social media, where he again accused the government of Canada, where he stated that they pay billions of dollars to subsidize Canada. Someone take the caps lock button out from his keyboard. There is no reason. We don't need anything they have. Really? You don't? Without this massive subsidy, Canada ceases to exist as a viable country. Harsh but true. Therefore, Canada should become our cherished 51st state. Here we go with benefits, much lower taxes, and far better military protection for people of Canada. Protection from whom? What are the enemies out there for Canada? What the military protection they need, rather than to protect itself against orange dictator. Sorry guys, I cannot say the other words towards this guy if he dreams and writes about the annexation of his neighbors. And by the way, Canada already responded on the United States tariffs. Canada will also introduce 25% tariffs on the United States products. So it will cause billions of dollars of the losses for both of the allied countries. So guys, the last 2 weeks with this guy are absolutely crazy. By the time our enemies are uniting against democratic world, this guy starts a trade war between allies. What can I say, my fellow Americans? You elected your president and we have to cope with it for the next 4 years. Not just you, no, entire world. And something tells me that it's just a beginning. For Ukraine, there's gonna be also hard times. Guys, I understand that there could be some of the Trump supporters on my channel, I know that, but you know we have the freedom of speech and I'm free to tell whatever I think. So from what I see, it's obvious that it was not a good choice for the free world. However, we cannot return and play back the events differently. No, this is the reality, and Donald Trump will be a president for the next 4 years. And for us ordinary guys, we just need to minimize the outcomes of those bad decisions which have already been taken by the new White House administration. Like for me, it's already understandable that with a trade war, the prices for everything in the United States will rise. For fuel, for products, groceries. It's like 2 + 2 = 4. No one really needs the trade wars, especially with allies. Even the trade war with China could lead to dramatic circumstances for the economy. But with allies, more pressure, come on. So if that continues, I expect the outcome of the next presidential elections in the United States totally opposite. But I must say that Marco Rubio, for example, he's professional, he is educated guy, so hopefully he'll somehow hold Trump's ambitions. Interesting, JP Morgan frozen 2 billion of the Russian funds which Russia wanted to invest into the Turkey nuclear power plant project. Money was frozen after payments alarmed Justice Department investigators who found that Russia and Turkey used nuclear plant to sidestep United States sanctions. So maybe after all those $2 billion are not for the power plant but for the different stuff which Russia gets from Turkey bypassing United States and other countries' sanctions. A nice move, and I just hope that those funds will remain frozen. Because what worries me more than Donald Trump is this guy, Elon Musk. And it's been reported that Musk team given access to sensitive federal payment system. The best fucking idea ever, reliable as the Swiss watches, to give the budget access, like federal payment system access, to the crazy sick corpo crypto billionaire. Awesome! And it's not just about United States of America, no, it's about Europe as well, because this guy says about make Europe great again. He doesn't care about the United States really, he just lives there and earns huge funds. What he wants is to create a global world order for everyone. And believe me, you wouldn't like it. Recently I read this one again, fantastic novel, and I guess that Elon Musk was also inspired. Yes, the nearby future is not going to be boring for sure. Okay, according to the Russian sources, there is one more drone attack in Astrakhan Oblast. It is really far away from Ukraine. According to the reports, Ukraine tries to hit the Russian hub center for the natural gas. In Astrakhan, gas actually can go to China. Kind of interesting. About the possible ceasefire in Ukraine that was almost announced by Keith Kellogg yesterday, well, the chances for it are definitely low, and I agree with this article. Even a potential ceasefire sparks little hope in eastern Ukraine. And how you want to influence Putin for him to stop his attacks in Ukraine? The ceasefire wasn't even possible during the Minsk agreements, and you're telling me that it is possible now. Guys, I don't believe that it may happen. What I don't like from what I see, that Trump's administration is speaking about elections in Ukraine. So Ukrainian government is pressed now from two of the sides, politically from the United States and military from Russia. Putin wants Zelensky to go, and it seems like Donald Trump as well. If there were elections in Ukraine, don't you think that Elon Musk wouldn't influence those? Well, based on his actions in Europe, where he is strongly against the German government and UK government, I don't think so. You probably know that I'm not Zelensky's fan or something, but elections now in Ukraine will not bring anything good, and even Ukrainian opposition supports that idea. I mean, not the pro-Russian opposition, no, democratic opposition. They also say that it's not a good idea at all. By the way, today in his interview, Zelensky said that from the promised $177 billion, the United States of America supported Ukraine with $75 billion. Most of that support goes for Ukrainian military. But Elon Musk right away shared the post of the pure propaganda against Ukraine and the previous administration of the White House, questioning where did the money go. Did Ukrainian officials and generals pocket their share? Did the big guy get his usual slice? So Elon Musk is strongly against the Ukrainian government. He's not creating his anti-Russian posts. You'll never find those. Neither you'll find any sort of the anti-China posts created by Elon Musk. He is quite good with dictators, and he has the influence on Donald Trump. So for Ukraine as well as for the rest of the world, it's definitely a hard time. But for Ukraine, it's more important because it's in a state of war with the Russian Federation, and it needs more support, crucially, especially right now, because I'm monitoring what is happening with the Russian armed forces and how many losses they have. For example, this is just a usual Russian report of their tankist, who said that 10 times, so 10 раз means 10 times, his tank was totally kaputted. So he changed 10 of the tanks. 10 tanks for one tank commander. And the next 5 times, so 5 раз, 5 times, he came back with a burning tank that was significantly damaged. 15 times he was burned in a tank and was even considered dead. The story of tanker with a call sign Glukhar. The Russian propaganda RT says that Ukrainian armed forces promised 10 million hryvnias for the head of this particular Glukhar tanker. Or it's better to say tankist, because tanker is the tanker. It means that Ukraine hit the Russian army vehicles really hard. And if we check out the Russian losses for a single day, the 2nd of February 2025, you'll see this huge list. And just a single tank T-72B3 model from 2022. It doesn't mean that it was made that year, but the model is from this year, so a fresh Russian tank. It means that their stockpiles for T-72 tanks are mostly empty. Alright, just a single BMP-2 we have here, but before we had lots of the BMPs, BTRs. Now we see mostly civilian vehicles, trucks, all-terrain vehicles and civilian vehicles. That's the second army in the world, 21st century, and they fight with the sidecar motorcycles. I personally like sidecar motorcycles, and I had 2 of the motorcycles before the war, and I sent them to the front lines. But I know how they're used. They're not sent to fight on the front lines. No, they're far behind, used as the supply vehicles for the border control. But Russians know they use the Ural motorcycles right on the front lines. Those vehicles are unreliable, honestly. A DIY-made trike to the Russian army. Everything is rusty, everything is... yeah, second army in the world, definitely. And this is Lada with a drone protection, some of the rubber on the sides and on the top. What is this? This is Moskvich or Ir car. Bukhanka, Niva, well, Niva at least it has off-road capabilities, but civilian vehicles, it's the Mad Max army. Before, Russians used some of the civilian vehicles, but not modernized and not massively and not right on the front lines. But today they may try to go towards the Ukrainian positions on those. It is crazy. So I'm telling you that again just to show that Russia is not winning this war. They have a tremendous crisis inside their army, so it's very important to continue the support of Ukraine. But now, with the new White House administration, it's the big question. One more funny video I found on internet, probably it's better to listen with some of the voice over.
Формирование МЧС России. Подразделение ориентировано на ликвидацию последствий чрезвычайных ситуаций, которые могут возникнуть на арктических просторах, проведение поисково-спасательных, а также водолазных работ, очищение водной глади от нефтепродуктов.
Arkhangelsk Arctic Complex Emergency and Rescue Center of the Emercom of Russia
And Russia is everywhere like that.
Огромное спасибо многодетной спортивной семье. Сергей получил желаемые хоккейные щитки. Будет теперь удобнее, быстрее и в некоторых местах не связываться ни с коляской, ни с протезом. Дай бог здоровья, Сергей.
Спасибо.
Prosthetics in the United States.
Leg that can read your mind. When Zach Vaughter wants to take a step, he thinks it, and it happens.
There's nothing special about it in the sense that of what I've had to learn. Basically, in terms of interacting with stairs, right back to not having an amputation.
Prosthetics in Russia. Hockey, freaking shields for the knee and for the legs. What Russians usually say, but Crimea is ours, Donbass is ours. Now let's go to the military map update. So Russia moved for the last 24 hours in 3 of the directions. Ribne, it's over here, Pokrov's direction. Let's check out yesterday and today they went to Ribne, a very small settlement. Here is even smaller settlement of Zaporizhia, so probably the only Zaporizhia which Russia is capable to take right now. Also Russia propelled in Dachna just a little, yeah, they've took a couple of the streets, but here they're very slow. I think that in this direction Russia wants to take Andriivka and cross the river of Vovcha and then cut Constantinople, so supplies for Ukrainian group in this entire pocket. But so far it's not happening and Ukraine continues to defend the flanks. A new Ukrainian commander Drapati was just appointed on the position of the commander of the Hortitsa group, so he needs more time to get the things all together. Drapati is very competent, so I'm sure that he will resolve many of the issues in Ukrainian military. Speaking about this direction, Ukrainian armed forces will withdraw from this pocket, but little by little. And Russia also moved in Kolodisy. Just yesterday I've told that there was no movement of the Russian army over here, but today we have this update, so Russia advances from two directions. They try to expand this bridgehead in the Kharkiv region and they want to go to Liman, but it's far perspective for Russians, especially with the problems they currently have. And for today there was no movement of the Russian army towards Pokrovsk, and neither there was the advancement towards Udachne, so Ukraine keeps the flanks and Russia really struggles compared to what it was before. Also, weather plays its major role. By the way, in the coming days there will be cold temperature in Ukraine, down to -7, so all of the dirt on the field roads will be just frozen for some time. But for the next 3 months at least, the temperature will fluctuate around 0, making the military actions, especially for attacking side, very difficult. So guys, it's all what I want to say today. I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.